This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Welcome back to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast with the team at ProStatus Financial. Ryan Herbert is here today. My name is Randy Cook, and we're talking through some of the issues of retirement and some of the things that you might be thinking about as well. And this is something that's pretty common. You get into your 60s, and you've been saving in that 401k very, very faithfully all these years. And then you get toward retirement, maybe a year or two away from retirement, and that number in that 401k is really nice. It's looking pretty big, and we've had 3 good years in the market, so why not? But then you start to see, gosh, if I could just get rid of my house payment, if I could just get rid of my car payments, if I could just get rid of this debt or that debt, and I would do so much better in retirement being debt-free. Sure you would, but to go into that 401k and grab that money to pay off your house, maybe that would make you feel good psychologically. Is it a good move financially? Let's talk about being debt-free. That's a great goal, but to suffer your retirement accounts to get there, Ryan, maybe not such a good idea.
Yeah, I certainly understand the desire for people to want to be debt-free in retirement, honestly, because it feels like I'm going to have more money. If I'm surviving on $8,000 a month right now, if all of a sudden I cut my mortgage payment out, that's an extra $2,000 a month. Now I'm only spending $6,000. I'll spend less money in retirement because of it. I don't need as much money. But really what happens is you find other things to spend that $2,000 a month number on, especially if you're doing it before you go into retirement, kind of that lifestyle creep aspect of it. But, when it comes to retirement planning, what we do is we sit down and we say, okay, go through your budget, and I'll give you a budget if you need one. I'll give you a budget to fill everything out. I don't ever really go through people's numbers and say, all right, you're spending too much money here. We need to cut out this. You're spending too much money on going out to eat. I don't do any of that because, honestly, I tried to do that with Meredith years and years ago, and it didn't work out that well for me. So now I just tell her, here's how much you spent on Amazon. Maybe you should think about cutting it back. And then that's kind of where I leave it. But, really what I care about is how much money you're spending on a monthly basis with everything included. I don't care where you spend your money or how you spend your money. I care about the total amount that you're spending on your expenses, on living the lifestyle you want while you're working, because that's the number we're going to target in retirement. You'll see projections out there from, the Fidelity or Forbes or, Smart Wallet or Nerd Wallet or whatever, companies like that say, you should plan on replacing 65, 75, 85% of your income. Well, I just want to know exactly how much you're spending. Are you spending $5,000 a month or $6 or $7 or $8 or whatever that number is? Because that's what we plan for in retirement with your debt included. Because if we look at your retirement spending, we look at your sources of income, most people are going to have Social Security unless you're one of those select few government employees. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a pension. Maybe you have, dividends and interest, or you have a business income, you have rental income coming in. What does income look like for your retirement? How much income are we generating from these sources? What's our difference? How much more do we need to generate out of your retirement nest egg to give you that lifestyle that you want? And I always tell people, if we can make the numbers work with having the mortgage, with having the car payments, with having whatever debt you're having, if we can make income work with having those items in your budget, well, there's not really a need to go pay these things down, because it's not as if, this extra $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month that you're spending on your house is going to be detrimental to your retirement. And that's really the way that it works for most people. Obviously, there's some exception, and it inevitably comes up in pretty much every single conversation that we ever have. We sit down, we go through the planning process with most people. We go back and forth. We talk about, here's what taxes look like. Here's how income's going to work. Here's how we should allocate the extra money that we're not using for income. And we kind of walk you through the financial planning process. We take care of the income. We allocate the assets. We talk about life insurance from, a tax savings. We talk about it from a nest egg. We talk about long-term care. We talk about your estate plan. We talk about taxes, all those aspects of a financial plan. And normally that takes up the first year of our conversations. And then ultimately, we've set the plan in place. We've been going about it for a year. We come back to review everything. Ultimately, that is normally that meeting or the one after that. That's normally where that question comes up from pretty much everybody. We've made sure we have enough money for income. We've taken $200,000, $300,000 and set that aside. So that generates the extra income we need. We have this other pot of money. And for us, we want to maximize that extra pot of money. So you have flexibility to do things. You have flexibility to take the vacations, to take the grandkids to Disney World, to buy the RV, to play golf every day. Whatever you're doing with that extra money, we set that money aside. Inevitably, that question always comes up. Well, what do you think about us taking $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 out of that account and paying off the mortgage? Because I hate having that mortgage payment. I hate just knowing that it's out there. And the number one question that I ask pretty much everybody right back in return is, well, what's your interest rate? If you have an interest rate that's, 2.5%, 3.5%, somewhere in that range, well, chances are your money that's been invested is earning more money than that. So, it's not as if we're losing money by having it and paying interest to the bank. If you have one of those high interest rates, it is a little bit different of a conversation. But for the most part, number one, your money has been earning more money in high yield savings accounts or high yield money markets or in the market than the interest that you're paying. That's the number one thing that we look at first. And then the next thing is, what happens to your taxes should we do this? I'm spending $5,000 a month. I'm spending $8,000 a month. I'm spending $10,000 a month. So we're generating income. I have $60,000, $80,000, $120,000 worth of income, and I'm paying X amount of dollars in taxes on the money coming out of my IRA. I'm paying X amount of dollars on the taxes from my pension. I'm paying X amount of taxes on my Social Security. Well, if all of a sudden, we want to pay off your mortgage and your balance is $175,000, we're taking $175,000 out of your IRA, which is 100% taxable money, and dropping it onto your tax return. Well, number one, there's taxes on that $175,000, but how does it affect all the other income that you're generating? And that's why taxes are such an important part of financial planning. It's why we incorporate it into everything that we do. But I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, we want to take out $175,000. It's going to take us now from that 12% tax bracket up into the 27, 28% bracket in that range. And it's not just that money. It's increasing the taxes on everything. Oh, by the way, it's changing how much tax you're paying on Social Security. We were only paying tax on 50% of your benefit. Now we're paying tax on 85% of your benefit. That's moving us up a tax bracket higher. So we want to think about the tax consequences that it's having. So, you want $175,000 in cash to pay off the balance of your mortgage. Well, instead of it being $175,000 that has to come out, we have to take out, about $290,000, $300,000 in taxes. And once I get to that number, I tell people, here's what it's actually going to cost you in taxes. That kind of changes the conversation. Oh, well, maybe you're right, Ryan. We have taken those steps to make sure that we've secured the income so that we can continue to pay our mortgage. We can continue to pay our car payment, whatever those debts that we're servicing. As long as we can produce the income without affecting our retirement plan, there's nothing wrong with having that in retirement. And if you want to find out more about how to create those reliable, predictable income streams that you and your spouse can outlive in your lifetime that are unaffected by the stock market, I encourage you to give us a call at 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, and sit down with myself or Lawrence or Faisal or Catherine or any one of the advisors here at ProStatus Financial Advisors, and let us show you what a true income and tax plan can look like for you in retirement. But give us a call, 866-597-1040, 866-597-1040, or you can visit us on the web at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That's thesavvyinvestorradio.com. And also, I forgot to add this. It's always another kicker whenever we talk about taking large chunks of money out of retirement plans or doing something. Everybody's always thinking about taxes. Ryan, tell me what's going to happen to my taxes, because that's why you come to me. You come to me for the making sure your income is secure, management of the assets, and taxes, because we're really big on that. But another thing that nobody ever thinks about is, how is this going to affect my Medicare premiums? That IRMA, that income-related adjustment, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but, all of a sudden, I was bringing in $120,000 a year, which keeps me below that first Medicare threshold, which is about $206,000. If I take out $100,000, well, I'm going to pay tax at a much higher rate, because now my income is $220,000 versus $120,000. But also, I'm going to get a fun letter from Social Security and Medicare saying, oh, by the way, your Medicare premium is now going to go up. So there's a lot of different factors that go into these decisions when we're thinking about paying off debt, taking a big chunk of money out to pay for a vacation, doing Roth conversions. So you want to work with an advisor who thinks about all those implications, rather than just, okay, if we take this money out, let's withhold 20% for federal and 7% state. But it all starts by having a true plan and true financial planners.
And go to the website, which is thesavvyinvestorradio.com. You'll see the button there for the tax analysis. And if most of the money that you're bringing into your retirement is a 401k, this is a really important conversation, because in the money that you spend in your retirement years, you got to pay attention to where it's coming from. If it's coming from a 401k, it's taxable. If it's coming out of a savings account or a Roth, not so much. So this is a conversation that I think is really important to have. Give the team at ProStatus Financial a call. It's thesavvyinvestorradio.com online, or 866-597-1040. Again, 866-597-1040. If you've saved $500,000 or more for retirement, this is where you'll see the power of tax planning, Social Security planning, investment planning really kick in. 866-597-1040. It's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to talk about your retirement. Find us online at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. That is all the time that we have on this segment. Ryan, I'll give you the last word on this one.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast, and we will see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.